In the late 19th century, when empires decided the fate of nations and warships ruled the oceans, a small island off the coast of East Africa became the stage for one of the strangest wars ever recorded. It was a war so short that many people today struggle to believe it even happened. Yet it did. And in just 38 minutes, it changed the destiny of an entire country. The place was Zanzibar, an island with a long history of trade, culture, and power. For centuries, Zanzibar had been a key hub for Indian Ocean to Java, connecting Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. By the 1800s, however, the world was changing. European powers were expanding rapidly, and Africa had become the focus of imperial ambition. Although Zanzibar had its own sultan, it was no longer fully independent. It was a British protectorate. This meant that Britain controlled Zanzibar's foreign relations and had enormous influence over its internal politics. One important rule was clear: no new sultan could take the throne without British approval. For years, this arrangement worked quietly, but in August 1896, everything changed. On the 25th of August, the pro-British Sultan of Zanzibar suddenly died. His death created a dangerous power vacuum. Almost immediately, his cousin, Khalid bin Bargash, moved quickly. Without asking Britain for permission, Khalid marched into the palace, declared himself sultan, and raised his flag over the building. To Khalid, this was a matter of legitimacy and ambition. He believed the throne was rightfully his, but to the British authorities, this was a direct violation of their agreement. They feared that Khalid would challenge British influence and possibly align Zanzibar with rival powers. Within hours, the British consul sent Khalid a clear message: step down immediately or face consequences. Khalid refused. Instead of backing down, he prepared for war. He gathered around 2,800 soldiers and supporters, many armed with rifles. He positioned artillery around the palace and believed that showing strength would force Britain to negotiate. He underestimated the enemy he was facing. At the same time, the British Empire was already prepared. In the harbor of Zanzibar, 5 British warships quietly took position. These ships were armed with modern naval guns, capable of destroying buildings in minutes. British Marines stood ready. The outcome, although not yet officially decided, was already clear. The British issued an ultimatum. Khalid was given until 9 o'clock in the morning on August 27th to surrender and leave the palace. If he did not comply, force would be used. As the deadline approached, tension filled the air. Inside the palace, Khalid remained defiant. He believed Britain would hesitate. He believed they would not dare attack the palace so openly. At 9 o'clock, the deadline passed. At 9:02 in the morning, British warships opened fire. The first shells slammed directly into the palace. Walls collapsed almost instantly. Fires broke out. The royal yacht, anchored nearby, was hit and quickly sank. Zanzibar's artillery tried to respond, but it was useless. British naval guns were far superior in range, accuracy, and power. Within minutes, the defenders were overwhelmed. Soldiers fled, cannons were destroyed. The palace, once a symbol of power and sovereignty, was reduced to rubble. By 9:40 in the morning, just 38 minutes after the first shot was fired, the war was over. The casualty numbers revealed the imbalance of power. On Zanzibar's side, more than 500 people were killed or wounded. On the British side, only 1 sailor was injured. Khalid bin Bargash did not die in the battle. As the palace burned, he escaped through a back door and fled to the nearby German consulate, where he was granted asylum. Later, he would be secretly taken out of the country, his dream of ruling Zanzibar completely shattered. After the war, Britain quickly installed a new sultan, one who fully supported British authority. Zanzibar effectively lost what little independence it had left. From that moment on, its rulers served largely at the pleasure of the British Empire. No peace treaty was signed. No long negotiations followed. In less than an hour, a nation's future had been decided. This war, the shortest in recorded history, was more than a historical curiosity. It represented the reality of imperialism at its peak. It showed how modern weapons could crush traditional forces instantly, and it revealed how power, not justice or legitimacy, often determined the fate of countries. The Anglo-Zanzibar War reminds us that history does not always change through long, dramatic struggles. Sometimes it changes in moments. Sometimes entire eras end before the world even notices. 38 minutes, one decision, one kingdom forever altered. And today, more than a century later, this real story still stands as one of the most shocking examples of how quickly history can be rewritten. Please subscribe the channel. This is yours. Thanks for watching.